I think there's people that are happy, but then also I think they realize there's this respect that they have for Saban, and it's like, wow, my team's not going to play them anymore. Play him. And so I think that's the big thing here is that Saban, he was as far as coaching, he was the greatest of all time. You look at everything he has done at Alabama, and it's good. But also, you got to make sure you remember he won a national championship outside of the six he won in Tuscaloosa. He won one with LSU, and so here's the thing to take away from this: there's not ever going to be another coach like Nick Saban that will win as many championships as him. Now, do I think there's a guy who embodies his mindset? Very much so. I think there is. Kirby Smart is a guy that has the same kind of mindset as Nick Saban. I do not think Kirby will ever get as many championships as Saban has, but he sure is going to try. Kirby, with his mindset, I think if there's one thing I believe he could actually get to it, and that's the really reason why I would believe it, is that he's got the mindset like Nick Saban, and that is he is going to be an old school coach. And that's the thing I think people are going to forget, is that when you consider what makes a great coach, I think people forget about the old school style of coaching is what has been winning. I mean, that's what Saban is. He's an old school coach. He's going to be tough, but then you're going to realize that what he's teaching is he's trying to build your character and discipline you and show you what it looks like. That's what Alabama did for years. I mean, they won the national championship over Texas to begin this whole run and this dynasty. And man, you knew from there this was going to be something special. And I think that's why today, when people have saw what Georgia did, winning 2 straight national championship games, I believe they won 29 straight games, they see a lot of what this Alabama dynasty was, and Georgia embodies what could be a similar type of dynasty. But getting back to Nick Saban, his accomplishments, everything he did for Tuscaloosa, I mean, all the national championships is what a lot of people are going to look at. But you got to look at all the players he sent to the NFL, folks. He sent a bunch of good players. Like, since I remember, because I'm 18, so as long as I've been alive, I don't remember a year, unless I've forgotten, but I don't remember a year where Alabama did not have a first-round draft pick in the NFL. That just shows you all the talent that's been down there. And quite frankly, it is impressive what Saban's been able to inherit down there. Now, there's always going to, I think from now on, there's going to be that big debate, because I feel like there's still that debate between Bear Bryant or Nick Saban as the greatest coach. Right now, I got to say, I think Nick Saban is, just because of, look at his accomplishments. He's got more championships than Bear Bryant. And, he got 6 of them in Tuscaloosa. He got 1 at LSU. And he, I think he's going to be fine throughout retirement. I mean, he's going to have a lot more time to do stuff. But, I wonder, just like, especially for Alabama fans, because I think Alabama fans are taking it really hard as far as with it's a sad time for Alabama fans. And I will say this, I think that depending on who takes over is going to be key. Now, I don't think there's any doubt right now. Saban has been in there trying to find the replacement. I mean, there is no doubt. He's been in that office with Greg Byrne, the AD, there in Tuscaloosa. They're trying to figure this thing out. Where do we go from here? Who is going to be the next head coach? And that's one thing I want to say is that I think Nick Saban, he's earned the right to basically say, I think this guy would probably be a good fit here in Tuscaloosa. He's earned that right because he's the greatest college football coach of all time, folks. And here's the thing. When he's the greatest college football coach of all time, he knows college football. Trust me, he knows college football. So you would be stupid not to say, Nick, look at all these candidates. Who's the best for the job? Now, if we want to get into, who everybody believes is going to take over for Saban, that is just you could get on a long list of different people you could start talking about. Of course, one of the big things is you could talk about Dan Lanning. I will say he's come out and said he's not taking the job, but let's be honest with ourselves. Let's wait and see what happens. There's still a possibility it could happen, even though he's came out and said he's not taking the job. Also, let's look at Nick Saban back when he first took the job. He at first said, I'm not taking the job. Then come to find out, he took the Alabama football job. So, you can't sit there and say, it's a done deal. Dan Lanning's not coming to Tuscaloosa. No, you just got to wait. Because anything can happen. And plus, let's be honest. I would say this, because I feel like Alabama's a job that everybody's going to want, but then they don't want it at the same time. Here's why I say they don't want it. Because right now, I think from the way it's coming out, is that Nick Saban will still have an office there in Tuscaloosa for something. I don't know what he said earlier. I was trying to watch his interview with Reese Davis, but I will say this: he's gonna be there in Tuscaloosa. I feel like that right there is the only part that it's it kind of is a little bit hard to take the job, because if you're wanting that job and you got your predecessor sitting there watching your every move, it is almost like it's like that. You got something poking your side and you can't get it away from you. That's what it is. He is like a thorn that's going to be in your side the entire time you're the head coach. And so, also, the big thing is that the fans, let's say you don't get a 10-win season in your first year, people are going to start pointing at, well, look what Nick Saban did. Look what Nick Saban did. And so it's going to be really difficult for the guy who's going to take over to deal with that. Now, you've been waiting. Who do I believe Alabama should hire? Who do I believe is on the... because Alabama's pretty much got this figured out. It's just a matter of time before they announce and have the press conference. Because, let's be honest, Alabama has had their guy. We're just waiting to see when they announce this. Either way, who do I think Cooper Naylor here on January 11th, 2024, who do I believe they should go and get? If you want my honest opinion, and this is my thing, I don't think a lot of Alabama fans are going to like this name I'm going to bring up, but I think he'd be the best coach for this team. Dabo Swinney. Dabo, I think, is probably one of the best coaches right now. Let's be honest. Go look at the history of Clemson. Other than the run Clemson had a few years ago, where they won the 2 national championships, they made it a couple years straight. My thing is that I think that if you look at Clemson, there's not as much resources there for a head coach. And the reason why I say that is that Clemson is not a built winner like if he were to leave Clemson and go to Alabama. And I feel like, personally speaking, I think that if you watch the way that he handles himself, I think he would be the best role model for those players as well. He would be the best teacher, and he would be the best coach. That's my thing. It's like, I feel like he's the best candidate out there, and if they can find some way to talk him into coming to Tuscaloosa, which I'm going to be honest with you, he's from Alabama. He went to Alabama. I think he would take the job. He'd be crazy not to. Alabama is 10 times better than Clemson. But I don't think that's who Alabama will end up hiring, because the fans are going to hate Greg Byrne and Nick Saban, and the whole university is going to be hated if it's Dabo Swinney. Now, who's another guy I think could potentially be the guy taking over? Well, ultimately, I think it comes down to Lane Kiffin. If you're talking about a guy that coached with Saban, that Saban would probably give his endorsement of, it's Lane Kiffin. And the reason why I say Lane Kiffin is because I think he's a good coach. That's first and foremost. If you look at the way that Alabama's offenses ran with Lane Kiffin, of course, his first year was Blake Sims, and that was just kind of a rocky season. First year of the playoff, lost to Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl. And then you had the next season, national championship. Jake Coker was the quarterback. And so I think if you look at it, Lane Kiffin right now, he was not sad to see Quinshon Judkins leave Ole Miss for Ohio State. And from what my dad's been saying, because I don't have Twitter, but my dad's been saying, he's been putting stuff out there on Twitter that has kind of been like, oh, he may leave Ole Miss for Alabama. He's got a bunch of stuff out there with Alabama. Like his son wearing an Alabama shirt and being at like an Alabama game, I believe, is something that's been out there, that he put out there. Either way, Lane Kiffin makes the most sense as far as the way he is, and I think he takes the job if he's offered it. Who are some coaches I think would be great, and I think Nick Saban would have an endorsement of, but I don't think it's going to happen. Kirby Smart is not leaving Georgia for Alabama. He would be crazy to do that, I think, because what he's building at Georgia is going to be successful for years, whereas Alabama, he's just going to have to basically start from scratch. Steve Sarkisian is another one I don't see leaving Texas. I don't see him leaving Texas because he's building a great culture there in Austin. So I don't see Sark leaving Texas. That's just, to me, it seems crazy to think about that. Dan Lanning, like I said, even though he's kind of ruled himself out, don't be shocked. It could happen. He could end up going to Alabama. So you're going to have to wait and see about that one. Other than that, I think that's kind of like the 5 guys that I think Alabama is kind of looking at. And really, I don't think anyone else really should be on any list. Like I said, personally, I would like to see Dabo go to Tuscaloosa. I think he'd be the perfect fit. Excuse me. But, I mean, if I got to be honest about who I believe Alabama will end up hiring, it's probably Lane Kiffin. And then you ask me, what does the future look like if, whenever, because I mean, if you go back and look at history, when Bear Bryant ended up, whenever he left Alabama, and then for years and years it was just not any kind of winning football for Alabama. And then, of course, Gene Stallings, he won that national championship in '92, but then that was just kind of like the only championship they had then. And then it took until 2009 when Saban was head coach. So you ask me, what does the future look like for Alabama? I will say this, because in today's college football, and I'm looking at it from today's college football, I think there's more hope, if you're a Bama fan, to continue to have the success. Especially, let's be honest, depending on who's staying, because, I mean, I think I've seen only one player decommit from Alabama with Nick Saban retiring. So, clearly these players realize, oh, it's Alabama. This is a special place to play. And no matter who they're going to get to coach, well, depending on who they get to coach, I think is going to be a big key here. Because I think the players that are currently on the Alabama team have like 30 days since the retirement announcement to announce whether they're going to enter the transfer portal or not. So here is going to be the big key here. That is that I think Alabama has a better chance to sustain success now with Saban stepping down than when Bear Bryant left Tuscaloosa. Because I think in today's college football, when you consider transfer portal and the way the recruiting is today, and then also Alabama's going to get, I think, a pretty good coach, that's going to help. And players are still going to want to go play at Alabama. It's a special place, like I said. So Alabama, I think, is going to sustain success. Now, so right here, right now, I do have to say that Sunday night, we've got a video that's going to premiere on both YouTube and Runnable. Wednesday night, I'm going to give you both. I'm going to look at the Big Ten schedule for next year, plus I'm going to give you early rankings. And the reason why I bring that up is to say this, is that Alabama, to me, is not going to fall very far. Because it's Alabama. Alabama will still be a great program. And whether or not they're going to be in the top 4, which, to be honest with you, I don't know if they're in the top 4 right now. But here's the thing. They're going to be in the top 10 still. That's the thing I think scares a lot of people, is that they are still going to be in the top 10, even though the fact is right now, they're still looking for a head coach. So, the early 2024 Saber Broadcast Network rankings will come out. Of course, that's something I've also been looking at doing, but I'm going to actually do it. What you're going to see next year from the channel is that you're going to have a Saber Broadcast Network poll. And the way I'm going to do that is, my plans with that is that I'm still working it out. So I will probably put a community post out sometime in the next couple days to explain how I'm going to do that. It's going to be a voting system somehow, though. That's all I'm going to say. But I will put out my personal rankings as well. So that's how we're going to do it. It's going to be between me and you, the viewers, to figure out a Saber Broadcast Network poll in a voting fashion. So, tonight has been a interesting stream. We talked about the championship game that was Monday night. We talked about Nick Saban retiring. 2 topics in 30 minutes, folks. So, what I want to do now is if you have any questions that you want to ask me right now about anything within college football, this is your opportunity right now. So, I'll give you a couple of minutes if you want to ask me any questions regarding college football. So, if that's what you want to do is ask me any questions, you have your chance right now to ask away. But, man, this is going to be an ongoing story throughout the whole offseason of college football. And so, I got to tell you, that Alabama spring game, I will say this, the Alabama spring game is now looking like it could be a highly viewed product in April. Trust me, I think this is going to be one of the highest viewed spring games that you're going to see because of the questions about Alabama. So, first question I've got here is, if Kirby goes to Bama, how good would they be? I will say this. If you want Saban type of dynasty to continue, I don't think it'd be as good as what Saban's got, but you know what? He'll bring it. He's won 2 national championships at Georgia, and I could see maybe 2 or 3 with Alabama if he were to come. And that brings up a good question, though, also. How many coaches have won multiple championships at multiple schools? That's a good question. It's a good question that we will have to look that up sometime. But, of course, if you have any more questions, you can go ahead and put that in the chat right now. Happy to answer your questions. So, very interesting, to say the least, is what this news is. Something that I don't think a lot of people were. You always expected this news to come someday with Nick Saban, but the timing of it was, I guess, odd for most people. So I think most Bama fans thought he would go out with a national championship game win. Let's be honest. I think he would have went out with a championship if he could have. So, if Bear Bryant coached in the current college football, how good would he be? Well, first of all, his style, I think, was well, let me rephrase that. I think Nick Saban was a tough coach, but I think Bear Bryant was even tougher. And I think his type of coaching probably wouldn't have lasted long because I don't think people would have enjoyed the way he coached. But if you go to pure success, there could be an argument made he could have possibly sustained success even longer than Saban. If Milroe transferred, where would he go? To be honest with you, that's kind of hard because I think, here's my thing, is that I think that if he were to transfer, I feel like he's moved to tight end if he goes to another big school like Alabama. Now, let's say he goes to a group of 5 school, I feel like he could continue playing quarterback, but I don't see him transferring anywhere within the Power 4 at this point, and still being able to play quarterback. I don't see it. I just don't. So, a lot of questions that we will get answers to in the coming days. So, college football wraparound will return Wednesday night. For now, though, Sunday night, like I said, I'm going to have my top 5 college football broadcast booths is going to premiere Sunday night, 8 o'clock, on both Rumble and YouTube. So you do not want to miss that. But other than that, there is not anything else to talk about. I've talked about what I wanted to, the 2 topics I had. And, for those Alabama fans out there, I truly do feel for you. Because this, from a college football fan standpoint, this is one of the saddest days because you're watching the GOAT leave college football. So, with that, folks, thank you for watching, and we will see you again later.